welcome. We are live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next hour. Gaza ceasefire talks underway in Paris as airstrikes continue. Israel says it will attack the city if no truce agreement is reached soon. United Nations Security Council marks 2 years of Russia-Ukraine war. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz says Europe needs to beef up its defences, calls for stronger Europe. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to lay foundation for key cooperative sector initiatives to inaugurate world's largest grain storage plant in cooperative sector. All right, news in detail now. In a fresh move, an Israeli negotiating team reached Paris on Friday for a potential ceasefire in Gaza. It is the latest sign of tentative progress towards an agreement that could end the 5-month-old Israel-Hamas conflict. The Israeli delegation, which includes the heads of its internal and external intelligence services, will meet the director of the CIA, Qatar's Prime Minister, and Egypt's most senior intelligence official for talks over the weekend in a serious push to halt the ongoing conflict. And families of hostages held in Gaza blocked Tel Aviv's main transport artery on Friday in a protest calling for the immediate release of all hostages. Protesting families and supporters set up a dinner table with empty chairs representing 134 hostages on the eve of the Jewish Shabbat. Hamas is still believed to be holding more than 100 hostages in Gaza for 140 days since the October 7 attack on Israel that precipitated the conflict. And as the conflict between Russia and Ukraine completes 2 years, the diplomats gathered at the United Nations headquarters to express their support for Ukraine on Friday. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres addressed the Security Council and stated that international disputes shall be settled by peaceful means as per the UN Charter. He added all states shall refrain from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any other state. Guterres also met with foreign ministers from Ukraine, Poland, France, Spain, the United Kingdom, the Republic of Korea and Germany. While Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba thanked global leaders for standing by Ukraine, Ukraine is seeking to rally support for President Volodymyr Zelensky's 10-point peace plan that envisages the restoration of Ukraine's territorial integrity with withdrawal of all Russian troops, protection of food and energy supplies, nuclear safety, and the release of all prisoners of war. And a delegation of US senators met with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky in Lviv on Friday. As the aid for Ukraine hangs in the balance, the group in Lviv was led by Democratic Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. During the meeting, Schumer said the main reasons we have come here is to tell the Ukrainian people that US is with you. Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson has blocked passage of a bill that includes $60 billion in new funding for Ukraine so far.
The main reasons we've come here is to help them make up their minds. We want to tell them what we have seen. We want to show them. We have heard from so many that if you don't get the aid, you will lose the war. But if you get the aid, you will win the war. I take it that is accurate.
And we have come here to tell the Ukrainian people, we are with you. The United States is with you. We will not abandon you. We will fight and fight and fight to get this needed aid to you and to your brave soldiers.
Meanwhile, Zelensky said US is helping us to save democracy not only in Ukraine but in the world.
Your coming here is a very strong message from the United States, from your people of America, of support, big support, and I know that Americans on the side of truth, and we share common values, and thank you very much that you are helping us to save democracy, not only in Ukraine, of course, fight for democracy and freedom in the world.
White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said sanctions will continue to impose cost on Russia on Friday after US imposed extensive sanctions against Russia.
These are 500 new targeted sanctions that are now being sanctioned. The targets are being sanctioned for the first time, so that's important to note. These targets are within Russia's defense industrial base, its financial system, and it will continue to impose costs on Russia.
The South Carolina primary election is a crucial test for former U.S. ambassador to the United States, Nikki Haley, as the last possible alternative to Donald Trump to be the Republicans' pick for president. The latest polls show the former president is well ahead to get the party nomination after successful runs in both Iowa and New Hampshire, but that's not stopping Haley from trying. Caroline Malone reports from South Carolina.
From Charleston to Greenville, Myrtle Beach to Georgetown, Nikki Haley has been going all out to campaign, but may find her path to the presidency blocked by Donald Trump's supporters.
Now we've got 14, 15 million illegals just crossing the border, walking in. They're calling it migrant crime now. Sadly, I guess they don't have a choice, but Trump actually said that what is coming into this country is not the cream of the crop.
I love him. I think that I love his blunt reactions. I like the fact that he wasn't afraid to stand in front of the media and answer questions, and he will do what it takes to get the job done.
Polls are predicting a 30-point lead in the result of Saturday's vote in South Carolina for the former U.S. president.
Getting up on the stage. That seems to be rather difficult for some of our leaders these days. Yeah, it took you a little while.
His son Don Jr. agrees. He made fun of Haley and President Joe Biden at campaign events and said Trump will fix the economy and crack down on border security. Whether they agree or not, people are certainly engaged. More than 200,000 voters have already cast ballots. While early voting numbers show that more people came out to vote early in the Republican primary in South Carolina than they did ahead of the Democratic primary in early February. And with many more people choosing to take up that option, it's likely to have a big impact on Saturday's poll. Around 3 million people are eligible to vote and others can register on the day. It's an open election, meaning Democrats who didn't vote for Biden can vote for Haley.
So she's got to convince those people saying that, hey, I may be a Republican, but maybe you are a conservative Democrat. Maybe you don't like Joe Biden's presidency. Or she can argue with them that, hey, you may not love me, but remember Donald Trump? You really don't like him.
Haley says her priority is to stop war and that people can't let the chaos of Trump back into the White House.
I love her.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was kind of on the fence, and I'm anybody but Trump.
Why anybody but Trump?
Because I cannot stand Trump. Ever since the insurrection, especially.
Haley may be behind in the polls, but is still campaigning hard to get every extra voter she can behind her on Saturday. Caroline Malone, Georgetown, South Carolina, for DD India.
And a group of Republican Party lawmakers in Congress are urging US President Joe Biden to follow India's example. They're asking him to deactivate his new TikTok account, citing safety concerns. President Biden's re-election campaign joined TikTok earlier this month in an effort to mobilize younger Americans, with polls showing him losing support among those voters. But will it make a difference at the ballot box in November? DD India's Benji Hire has the story.
For months, US President Joe Biden resisted pressure to get his own TikTok page. That is until February of this year.
Chiefs or Niners? Two great quarterbacks.
when he announced his arrival with this clip that's been viewed almost 10 million times. Since then, Biden's account has posted dozens of videos on the app that's used by 170 million Americans, creating content, his campaign says, that will resonate with critical audiences as he vies to retain the Oval Office. Before joining TikTok, the president had leaned on unpaid, independent social media creators, spreading his vision to young adults on his behalf.
The Democratic Party is completely united behind President Biden and his...
Harry Sisson is a 21-year-old student with almost 800,000 followers, a huge reach. If you don't know him...
Harry, why don't you let me handle this one?
You got it. You'll certainly recognize his co-stars.
We've got gun safety on the ballot.
People can look at me, they can look at other creators and maybe even sympathize more with us because, we're just average folks. But, the president is an authority figure. He has a lot of weight. His words matter. So I think having that on that platform and being able to spread that message as well would be very helpful.
Washington remains wary. The administration and many lawmakers on both sides of the aisle have expressed major data concerns about TikTok's Beijing-based owner, ByteDance. The app faces potential regulation stateside. It's banned on government devices here, and the majority of US citizens think that TikTok, because of the China connection, is a threat to national security. But Harry still feels that videos featuring the president might be enough to turn the tide in an election that could be decided on such fine margins.
Biden in Pennsylvania won by 80,000 votes. In Wisconsin, it was 20,000. Arizona, around 10,000. Georgia, 10,000. These are, the population of the United States is around 330 million. These are very small numbers in comparison to the population. So if we can convince 500 voters, 500 swing voters in each of these states, that could be the difference right there.
Yet those who fought the grassroots ground game remain skeptical of the app's potential power.
We've seen a couple high-profile examples of where, the internet's candidate did not win. I mean, if you would have been following a lot of online sites in the 2016 primary, you would have think that Bernie Sanders had it in the bag. And he performed very well, a lot better than expectations. But the reality is that a lot of the voters, especially in Democratic primaries, but just across the country, especially in the older demographics, they're not online.
How you doing, Mr. President?
The president's web presence, though, is still strong. Joe Biden's on Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly Twitter, even Threads.
The president came to my house to have dinner.
Despite opposition criticism and even warnings from his own White House over potential data and privacy misuse by foreign actors, he's now, as Gen Z like to say, cooking on TikTok. Benji Haya in Washington, reporting for DD India.
And in a civil corruption case, the New York jury found that former National Rifle Association chief Wayne LaPierre cost the gun rights group millions of dollars through lavish spending on himself. The New York Attorney General Letitia James had accused the National Rifle Association and LaPierre of violating state laws. The jury also found that former National Rifle Association treasurer and former CFO Wilson Phillips cost the organization $2 million through mismanagement. LaPierre has built the National Rifle Association into a political powerhouse that pressed Washington and state houses to expand gun rights, even as mass shootings mounted nationwide. All right, we'll slip into a very short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. French farmers roll into Paris, prepare a tough welcome for Macron at Farm Show. At least 9 people killed by a huge fire in Valencia. Details after the break. And Justin Triet's Anatomy of a Fall wins Best Film and Director at Caesar Awards.
Is shooting the messenger the policy of Mamata Banerjee government? Is it going to work? Will it bring relief to the people?
The arrest of a journalist during a live show. Now, just imagine the police could have arrested him before or after the show. You want to send a message across the fraternity.
It will be very difficult for Mamata Banerjee to suppress all these voices. She is trying her best.
Please take pains to identify what the truth is. First, register the cases. You're not only not registering the cases, you're not even pursuing the cases. And that goes to show what your priorities are.
What happens when the equilibrium is disrupted or too much technology, even if it is green? And how does all of this impact human lives?
When we moved into regenerative agriculture, so as Namti for the last 20+ years, we've been doing chemical-free organic agriculture as such.
India's first all-women waste management team as waste collectors, supervisors, drivers and managers. Together, they handle the refuse of an entire Chennai neighborhood.
Jute is actually such a crop that it can fix the atmospheric carbon dioxide, and within 120 days it can absorb 15 tons of carbon dioxide per hectare.
Everything we produce here stays in our community. We don't want to sell our energy to the big companies. We want affordable, climate-friendly electricity for all our citizens.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. US moon lander built and flown by Houston-based company tipped sideways on lunar surface. The moon lander, dubbed Odysseus, is alive and well, but resting on its side a day after its white-knuckle touchdown as the first private spacecraft ever to reach the lunar surface and the first from the US since 1972. The uncrewed robot lander is carrying a suite of scientific instruments and technology demonstrations for NASA and several commercial customers, designed to operate for 7 days on solar energy before the sun sets over the polar landing site. The vehicle is believed to have caught one of its 6 landing feet on the lunar surface near the end of its final descent and tipped over, coming to rest sideways, propped up on a rock. An analysis of data by flight engineers showed, according to Houston-based Intuitive Machines.
Incredibly challenging thing like landing. The vehicle is stable near or at our intended landing site. We do have communications with the lander.
Intuitive Machines released a wide field of view image of Schmomberg crater on the moon. The moon lander, dubbed Odysseus, is resting on its side a day after its white-knuckle touchdown as the first private spacecraft from the US to reach lunar soil since 1972. NASA uploaded the images on the social media of Schomburg reaching the crater on the moon. The vehicle is believed to have caught one of its 6 landing feet on the lunar surface. One of the biggest farming expos in the world is set to open in Paris on Saturday. The convention is traditionally inaugurated by the French president. This year, Emmanuel Macron is going to face angry farmers who have been protesting for weeks over a litany of grievances. And as Tony Waterman reports, some are already waiting for him at the venue.
As this massive agricultural show gets underway here in Paris, French farmers are piling the pressure on the government. You can see this massive convoy of about 30 tractors that made its way through and around the city earlier, moving at a snail's pace and causing just a bunch of traffic jams before landing here at the convention center where the show is taking place. These farmers say that they are not satisfied with the concessions that the government has already made. Things like pausing a fuel tax and also cracking down on distributors who are violating laws that are meant to protect farmers' salaries. Now, Emmanuel Macron, the French president, was meant to have a debate with these farmers on Saturday, but has now canceled that at the last minute after the largest farmers union in the country, the FNSEA, said that it would not participate. They called the debate provocative and said that emotions are just running too high right now for a peaceful dialogue to take place. Some of these farmers have actually been protesting now for weeks. They are protesting things like low salaries, spiking costs, cheap imports, red tape, and new environmental regulation. Earlier this week, the French Prime Minister Gabriel Attal held a press conference. He said that farming should be of a national interest for the country and offered support packages for these farmers, which are going to be put into a bill in June. This convention that is taking place here over the next week is one of the largest agricultural shows in the entire world. It brings together people from all different aspects of the industry, representatives from more than 30 countries. But this year, it seems that the main focus is going to be on protesters, not just here in France, but really right across Europe. Tony Waterman in Paris reporting for DD India.
In South Africa's ruling party, the African National Congress, is set to launch its manifesto on Saturday in Durban's KwaZulu-Natal province. The president is expected to address key issues facing the country as presidential campaigns pick up pace. President Ramaphosa is seeking a second term, but the country will go to the polls on May 29th. DD India's Daniel Kijo has more.
These 2024 presidential elections in South Africa are projected to be the most competitive in the country's history. The launch of the ANC manifesto comes at a time when the historical party might be facing its hardest time in its 30 years of existence. Severe power rationing and high levels of unemployment are just some of the myriad of challenges that might hurt the African National Congress party election run. The political party's leading committee says they're expected to fill the Moses Madiba Stadium in KwaZulu-Natal with 85,000 people. They also have made arrangements for another 30,000 seats in case there's an overflow. The ANC's main opposition challenge is Julius Malema's Economic Freedom Fighters, or the EFF. Members of the diplomatic community like the Palestinian ambassador to South Africa are expected to be in attendance. The ANC has ruled the country since the late Nelson Mandela's presidency in the early 1990s. Daniel Kijo reporting for DD India in Dar es Salaam.
And there are fears of a deepening rift in West Africa after 3 countries announced their withdrawal from an important regional bloc aimed at improving relations, trade and movement in the region. Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger Republic have announced their exit from the Economic Community of West African States known as ECOWAS. And the decision to break away was in response to sanctions imposed on them by the bloc following the military takeover of governments in all 3 countries.
It's the second time the leaders are meeting this month alone to discuss the issue and other concerns in the region. They last met on the 8th, where they pledged to redouble dialogue efforts with the 3 countries to remain in the bloc. ECOWAS says that withdrawal is at a time when the member states need to be united to tackle security concerns in the region and foster its growth. According to the organization, close to 2,000 insurgent attacks were recorded in the region in the first half of last year, resulting in nearly 5,000 deaths and severe humanitarian consequences. The region has been addressing the concerns with a multinational joint task force comprising 15 member countries. ECOWAS is asking the military rulers to conduct elections and restore constitutional democracy in the countries. But authorities in Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger Republic say that won't be done immediately. They have also announced plans to form a confederation following their exit from ECOWAS. Lifting of sanctions against the 3 breakaway states is being discussed, but they are also being asked to rescind their decision to try and avert a deepening crisis. Tassim Akende in Jos, reporting for DD India.
All right, weather updates now. Guatemalan Army helicopters dropped water over the Agua volcano to battle a wildfire on the volcano slopes. Firefighters and the army have been working since Thursday to extinguish the blaze that started on 21st February on the slopes of the iconic volcano. Meanwhile, fire brigades climbed the volcano slopes to dig fire lines and contain the flames. Local authorities have said it will take about 5 days to extinguish the fire due to strong winds in the area. And heavy rains flooded Peruvian southern regions and damaged houses and roads. The authorities issued a red alert in Moquegua as the downpour could trigger torrents. In Yura and Inapari, over hundreds of houses got flooded by the intense rains after the Acre River got swollen. The National Meteorology Service, SENAMHI, forecasted rains to continue over the weekend. A scorching fire blaze continues to engulf Brazil's Roraima, impacting the ecosystem of the region. Roraima has been put on red alert with severe fire warnings. Dry weather due to severe drought has contributed to the increase in forest fires in the state. High temperatures and strong winds have been blamed for fanning the wildfires, with people facing down massive flames as they tried to keep blazes away from homes. Now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. At least 9 people were killed by a huge fire that ripped through an apartment block in an affluent district of Spain's third largest city, Valencia. The blaze, fanned by strong winds, engulfed the block in Valencia's El Campanar district within half an hour on Thursday evening. Firefighters with masks and oxygen tanks worked their way through the charred building looking for survivors. Fireworks lit up the night sky over Moscow, capping the Russia's Army Day celebrations, a public holiday in Russia that honors those serving in the armed forces and military veterans. The annual ceremony comes a day before the 2-year anniversary of the start of Russia's special military operation in Ukraine. A South American wild bird, Andean condor, gets released back to the wild in the mountains of Bolivia after it was nursed back to health. The female condor had been in treatment for 2 months before flying again. The bird was found malnourished and dehydrated last December by a local farmer who turned the animal to a wildlife care center for her rehabilitation. Giorgio Armani kicked off his second line Emporio Armani at Milan Fashion Week, stunning fashion enthusiasts with a sophisticated collection dominated by the timeless elegance of black. Milan Fashion Week, one of 4 stops during the month-long catwalk calendar, runs until Monday. Justine Triet became the second female filmmaker in the Caesar Awards' 49-year history to win the Best Director trophy for Anatomy of a Fall, which also won Best Film, Original Screenplay, actress for Sandra Haller, supporting actor for Swan Arlott, and editing at the French film industry's big night. The award ceremony unfolded at the Olympia Theatre in Paris on Friday evening. All right, time now for another short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour. Dr. S. Jaishankar calls for UN reforms in Raisina dialogue, which concluded in New Delhi on Friday. Healthcare facilities inaugurated at AIIMS Bilaspur, Himachal Pradesh. And Met Department forecast rainfall and snowfall in India's northeast.
What happens when the equilibrium is disrupted, or too much technology, even if it is green? And how does all of this impact human lives?
When we moved into regenerative agriculture, so as Nandi for the last 20+ years, we've been doing chemical-free organic agriculture as such.
India's first all-women waste management team as waste collectors, supervisors, drivers and managers. Together, they handle the refuse of an entire Chennai neighborhood.
Jute is actually such a crop that it can fix the atmospheric carbon dioxide, and within 120 days it can absorb 15 tons of carbon dioxide per hectare.
Everything we produce here stays in our community. We don't want to sell our energy to the big companies. We want affordable, climate-friendly electricity for all our citizens.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Recap of what we have done so far. Gaza ceasefire talks underway in Paris as airstrikes continue. Israel says it will attack the city if no truce agreement is reached soon. United Nations Security Council marks 2 years of Russia-Ukraine war. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz says Europe needs to beef up its defences, calls for stronger Europe. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to lay foundation for key cooperative sector initiatives to inaugurate world's largest grain storage plant in cooperative sector. In a major step to strengthen the cooperative sector of the country, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate and lay the foundation stone of multiple key initiatives for the cooperative sector. Prime Minister will inaugurate the pilot project of world's largest grain storage plant in cooperative sector, which is being done in 11 primary agricultural credit societies of 11 states. Prime Minister will also lay the foundation stone for additional 500 PSAs across the country for construction of godowns and other agri-infrastructure under this initiative. This initiative aims to seamlessly integrate PSAs godowns with the food grain supply chain, fortifying food security and fostering economic development in the country. The Prime Minister will inaugurate project for computerization in 18,000 PSAs across the country, aimed at rejuvenating the cooperative sector and empowering small and marginal farmers. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address the Viksit Bharat Viksit Chhattisgarh program via video conferencing. Prime Minister will inaugurate, dedicate to the nation and lay the foundation stone of multiple development projects worth over rupees 34,400 crore. PM will dedicate NTPC's Lara Super Thermal Power Project Stage 1 to the nation and lay foundation stone of NTPC's Lara Super Thermal Power Project Stage 2. It will be in Raigad district of Chhattisgarh. Project will also play a crucial role in improving power scenario in several other states and UTs. Prime Minister will inaugurate the solar PV project at Rajnandgaon to generate an estimated 243.53 million units of energy annually. Strengthening the infrastructure in the region, Prime Minister will dedicate Bilaspur Uslapur flyover. Prime Minister will also dedicate a 50 megawatt solar power plant in Bhilai. It will help in utilization of solar energy in running trains. PM will dedicate rehabilitation and upgradation of 55.65 kilometer long section of NH49 to 2 lanes with paved shoulders. The project will help in improving connectivity between two important cities, Bilaspur and Raigad. And in line with India's commitment to strengthening energy security and furthering sustainable development, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to virtually inaugurate 3 key first-mile connectivity projects valued at over rupees 600 crore. The Dipka OCP coal handling plant stands out as a key project constructed at a cost exceeding rupees 211 crore. Another noteworthy project is the Shal OCP coal handling plant in SECL's Raigad area, built at a cost of over 173 crore. Additionally, the Barud OCP coal handling plant at SECL Raigad area, designed to handle 10 MT of coal annually, has been completed at a cost of rupees 216 crore. Equipped with an overground bunker capacity of 20,000 tons and a 1.7 kilometer conveyor belt, the project features a rapid loading system capable of loading 5,000 to 7,500 tons of coal per hour, significantly streamlining the loading process and contributing to operational efficiency. Aligning with the PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan, these projects demonstrate commitment to provide multimodal connectivity and enhancing coal infrastructure across the region. By generating local employment opportunities and ensuring efficient energy supply, they play a pivotal role in the socio-economic development of the area. Has United Nations failed to address major global challenges, and is a growing chorus for reforms in global multilateral organizations, particularly from Global South? This was the major discourse in the recently concluded 9th edition of the Raisina Dialogue. The multi-stakeholder, cross-sectoral discussion involving heads of state, cabinet ministers and local government officials, along with thought leaders from the private sector, media and academia, deliberated upon diverse points of views to find solutions for inclusive growth. Amrit Pal and Jessica Taneja get us more.
India's flagship conference on geopolitics and geoeconomics saw 2,500 participants from 115 countries address the most challenging issues facing the global economy. From engagement with the European nations on global security challenges to reinvigorating the voice of the Global South, the 9th edition of the Raisina Dialogue gave room to diverse points of view to find solutions for inclusive growth. UN's failure to address major global challenges put it in the spotlight once again, and demand for reforms in Western multilateral organizations is gaining ground.
The UN is still actually a reflection of a colonial era organization. So I think it's a great idea. I really think that, posing the reform issue in terms of perpetuating a colonial era is something which we all need to think about. But what we realized was that G20 was not enough, because one part of the world with more than 50 countries had been significantly shut out, which was Africa. So if you see, in a way, we still call it G20, but it's actually become G21. And that itself, by the way, in a way, it's also a lesson to the UN that if the G20 could expand, so could the P5.
On India and China's relationship, Jaishankar said that maintaining an equilibrium would be challenging.
I think management, arriving at equilibriums, then maintaining those, refreshing those, is going to be one of the biggest challenges for both countries. The mind games which will be played would be, it's just between the two of us. There's nobody. The other 190 odd countries in the world don't exist in our relationship. Don't give another country, which is clearly a competitive country, a veto over our policy choices.
India's External Affairs Minister also spoke on Russia issue.
A lot of doors have been shut to Russia and the West. Russia is turning more to Asia or to parts of the world which are not West. It makes sense to give Russia multiple options. If we railroad Russia into a single option, then you are making it a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy.
With old structures on a path to revision, India is being seen as a co-creator and co-developer of technology.
India has today emerged as a trusted and a developing geography where people believe that, yes, India is a good partner. From being a receiver of previous generation technology through TOT agreements, today India is viewed as a country which can be a co-creator of technology, which can be a co-developer of technology.
Prime Minister of Greece, Kyriakos Mitsotakis, recognized India's growing importance on the international stage.
When it comes to shaping the direction of the global debate and addressing the great challenges that we face, India is now often regarded, and rightly so, as a consensus builder and as a voice of reason in an increasingly polarized world. And by the way, Greece is supporting the reform of the Security Council of the United Nations in order for leading countries such as India to be represented at the highest table and in order for their voice to be heard.
As India seeks to be a stabilizing power rather than a disruptive one, important issues like climate change and digital transformation shaped the multilateral themes.
As the Raisina Dialogue came to an end on Friday, India's message to the world was clear, that it's ready to play the bridging role between various global divides of the North and the South, the East and the West. But Dr. Jaishankar's message to the West was, do not shut all doors on Russia, for that would prove to be counterproductive. With cameraman Alok Kumar Gupta and my colleague Jessica Taneja, this is Amrit Pal Singh for DD India in New Delhi.
India-US hold 11th bilateral consular dialogue The Indian delegation led by Dr. K.J. Srinivas, Joint Secretary in Ministry of External Affairs, hosted the US delegation. The dialogue reinforced the strong people-to-people ties and cooperation that both countries share across consular issues of mutual interest. Both sides discussed ways of enhancing cooperation on a wide range of issues such as extradition, mobility of students and professionals, safe and legal migration, protection of vulnerable women and children, and enabling smooth travel of their respective nationals. They welcomed the launch of a pilot in the US to adjudicate domestic renewals of certain categories of visas as proactive steps towards strengthening robust connections between people of the two countries. Both sides agreed to hold the next consular dialogue in the US next year. And India's Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnav says that the bullet train project between Surat and Bilimora will give a fillip to growth in Mumbai and all nodes along the entire corridor. The minister reiterated that the first phase of the bullet train project of 48 kilometers will be commissioned by August 2026 and the other sections will be opened in phases. Vaishnav inspected the ongoing bullet train work sites at Vikhroli and Bandra Kurla complex on Friday. He also says that Indian Railways is already operating more than 40 semi-high speed Vande Bharat trains across the country. It has been almost a year since work commenced for the bullet train.
मैं आपको गारंटी दे रहा हूँ, मोदी जी की गारंटी है ये, इस बुलेट ट्रेन से मुंबई का डेवलपमेंट कई गुने बढ़ेगा। ये मैं आपको 100% श्योर कह रहा हूँ। आपके सामने कई एग्जाम्पल्स है दुनिया में बुलेट ट्रेन के। टोक्यो से ओसाका मैंने आपको एक एग्जाम्पल दिया। आप साउथ कोरिया का एग्जाम्पल ले लो, आप ताइवान का एग्जाम्पल ले लो, चाइना के एग्जाम्पल्स ले लो, जर्मनी के एग्जाम्पल ले लो, फ्रांस के एग्जाम्पल ले लो। जहाँ जहाँ बुलेट ट्रेन हाई स्पीड रेल आई वहाँ पे ग्रोथ 1+1 11 वाली डायरेक्शन में जाती है। ये मैं आपको एकदम स्पष्ट रिसर्च किया हुआ ट्रांसपोर्ट और अर्बन इकोनॉमिक्स का रिसर्च किया हुआ आपको मैं बात बता रहा हूँ।
And now we get you this report from majestic Royal Palace ground of Bangkok, marking the 26-day exposition of the relics of Buddha and his disciples along with the colors of India-Thailand cultural tapestry. DD India's Akshay Dongre gets us more from Thailand.
A majestic parade showing the culture and heritage of Thailand took place at Royal Palace ground of Bangkok as a part of 26-day grand exposition of the relics of Lord Buddha and his disciples. The parade also displayed the bonhomie between India and Thailand, as the parade consisted of the national flags of Thailand and India along with cultural exhibition of the two countries. The enshrinement of Lord Buddha's relics was done by the Prime Minister of Thailand under the supervision of Sangharaj, who is the Supreme Patriarch of Thailand. The exposition has sent waves of happiness across the country, with coming in Bangkok from all parts of the country to witness the relics.
Very happy because once in our life to see the ashes of the Lord Buddha is the most interesting and most important for our people. So to visit here is very, very good for our life because we don't know any time or any way how can we find again this good opportunity like this. So very thank you for Indian people.
This has further deepened the Indo-Thai relations, with the Indian diaspora expecting better cultural connect after the event.
The Thailand Thai people, they believe in Buddhism, main religion, and this time it helps to make the good bond between Thailand and India a lot, which in the past we didn't have that very often. So we appreciate the Indian government that to send the relic of Mahatma Buddha here.
The leaders of the Indian delegation expressed their happiness over the enshrinement of the relics, calling the ceremony a new chapter in the Indo-Thai relations.
Of course, no doubt about that. The bond between the two countries for so many years has been strengthening every year, every occasion. And today is one more occasion to strengthen it better. So that has exactly what has happened here. And we will be enhancing these ties, these bonds, may it be any culturally or politically or anything. But we will be having a good relations between both the countries.
The 26-day historic exposition of Lord Buddha and his disciples' relics is not just a momentous occasion for the people of Thailand, but it also gives both India and Thailand a great opportunity to further enhance their relations and deeper their connect. In Bangkok, Thailand, with camera person Mahesh Sharma, Akshay Dongre, DD India.
Now let's take a look at other stories making news today. India's ruling party President JP Nadda along with Union Ministers Dr. Mansukh Mandavia and Anurag Singh Thakur inaugurated new healthcare facilities in All India Institute of Medical Sciences in northern city of Bilaspur in Himachal Pradesh. They also laid foundation stone of night shelter at the institute. Indian Met Department has forecast rainfall with isolated thunderstorm activity likely over northeast and adjoining East India till Sunday. It said that isolated heavy rainfall and snowfall is also very likely over Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Sikkim and Nagaland for the next 2 days. Tourists in North Indian city of Gulmarg resumed their visit a day after an avalanche hit the valley. As normalcy returned, people were seen enjoying skiing and other winter sports. The snow-capped mountains gave a phenomenal view. Devotees in India's southern state of Tamil Nadu thronged the Muniyandi Swami temple in Madurai city to celebrate the annual biryani festivals. Locals believe that biryani, a rice dish, is the favorite food of the deity Lord Muniyandi. Alright, we'll slip into another short break, but still to come on DD India News Hour. Heavy rains flood southern regions of Peru. Authorities issue a red alert. The Court of Arbitration for Sport dismisses Russia's appeal against the International Olympic Committee's decision to suspend its membership. And Liverpool's Mohamed Salah in doubt for League Cup finals. Several key players also injured.
Is shooting the messenger the policy of Mamata Banerjee government? Is it going to work? Will it bring relief to the people?
The arrest of a journalist during a live show. Now, just imagine the police could have arrested him before or after the show. You want to send a message across the fraternity.
It will be very difficult for Mamata Banerjee to suppress all these voices. She is trying her best.
Please take pains to identify what the truth is. First, register the cases. You're not only not registering the cases, you're not even pursuing the cases. And that goes to show what your priorities are.
What happens when the equilibrium is disrupted or too much technology, even if it is green? And how does all of this impact human lives?
When we moved into regenerative agriculture, so as Namti for the last 20 plus years, we've been doing chemical-free organic agriculture as such.
India's first all-women waste management team as waste collectors, supervisors, drivers and managers. Together, they handle the refuse of an entire Chennai neighborhood.
Jute is actually such a crop that it can fix the atmospheric carbon dioxide, and within 120 days it can absorb 15 tons of carbon dioxide per hectare.
Everything we produce here stays in our community. We don't want to sell our energy to the big companies. We want affordable, climate-friendly electricity for all our citizens.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Business stories now. US automaker Ford said on Friday that it had halted shipments of all 2024 model year F-150 Lightning electric pickup trucks so it could perform quality checks. Ford did not specify the issue. It said that the production was halted on February 9th and did not give a date of resumption. And global finance watchdog Financial Action Task Force dropped the United Arab Emirates from its grey list of countries at risk of illicit money flows on Friday. UAE was placed under scrutiny in 2022 when FATF highlighted the risk of money laundering and terrorist financing involving banks, precious metals and stones as well as property. The move could boost confidence in the country and attract more money from overseas. And India is expected to overtake the US as the largest developer community on GitHub by 2027, Microsoft Chairman and Chief Executive Officer Satya Nadella said during his address to 1,100 developers and technology leaders at the Microsoft AI Tour in Bengaluru earlier this month. India added nearly 4 million developers on GitHub in 2 years, totaling over 13 million. India is the fastest growing market on GitHub, Microsoft-owned software development platform, 13.2 million developers using GitHub. After the US, India has the highest number of generative AI projects on GitHub. Nadella praised Indian developers for leading in AI projects and announced the Code Without Barriers program to empower women developers.
India is a place where, what the momentum around developers and development is unbelievable. Today, as we speak, India is number 2, only next to the United States in terms of the total number of developers on GitHub, and it's going to cross in 2028, I believe, or 2027. It's going to cross, so it's going to be the place where the most number of developers are going to be in. Second, even the AI projects. I mentioned this even the last time I was here. I was pretty stunned when I saw the stat. Number of Gen AI projects on GitHub with Indian contributors is, again, next to the United States. So it's just awesome to see the human capital of this country really embrace this new platform and effectively lead the new platform shift. And it's wonderful to see that.
India has become one of the most attractive destinations in the world for foreign investment, as per Lord Gary Grimston, Chairman, GemCorp Capital Management. India is rapidly emerging as a preferred country for foreign investments in various sectors. Foreign investment has increased 20 times in India in the last 20 years. The steps taken by the government during the last 10 years have borne fruit, as is evident from the ever-increasing volumes of FDI inflow being received into the country, setting new records. And due to friendly environment, India has now become one of the most attractive destinations in the world for foreign investment. And world's biggest hedge fund founder Ray Dalio says that India is nicely positioned to take advantage of changing dynamics in the world. He further added that there are vast improvements in education levels and infrastructure in India. He also listed stability and order as well as neutrality as important factors in India's emergence on the global stage. The Bridgewater Associates founder also highlights that the world is witnessing a shift after the US dominated it for decades.
World shift is taking place, and India, of course, is right in the middle of that. That dynamic, operating with the financial and the internal conflict, creates a classic dynamic that we've seen repeat over time.
All right, sports updates now. We'll start with cricket. 51 runs added on day 2 as England finally got bowled out for 353. It was all about Joe Root and his 2 partnerships, 113 for the 6th wicket with Ben Foakes and 102 for the 8th wicket with Ollie Robinson that held his team afloat in the Ranchi Test. Today is day 2. Ollie Robinson slammed his first half-century also, while Joe Root remained unbeaten on 122. Starting day 2 at 302 for 7, England started well with Joe Root and Ollie Robinson starting from where they ended yesterday. Robinson completed his first Test half-century, and like we said, Joe Root remained unbeaten on 122. Earlier, Joe Root rescued England with a century on the opening day of the 4th Test against India on Friday, steering the tourists to a respectable 302 for 7 after Akashdeep took early wickets. The right-hander responded to the backlash against England's baseball approach after their drubbing in the third test with an unbeaten 106 not out, which brought England back into the game from a precarious 112 for 5 at lunch. The hosts' 2-1 cushion in the 5-match series allowed them to rest pace spearhead Jasprit Bumrah, and Akashdeep became the 4th Indian to make his debut in the series. Now, the Court of Arbitration for Sport has dismissed an appeal from Russia against an International Olympic Committee suspension for recognizing regional organizations from territories annexed from Ukraine. The IOC banned the Russian Olympic Committee in October for recognizing regional Olympic councils for Russian-controlled regions of Ukraine, Luhansk, Donetsk, Kherson and Zaporizhia. The suspension ensures the ROC will not be eligible for funding and will not be associated with the Olympic movement, but does not affect any decision on Russian athletes' participation at the Paris Olympics 2024. Now, Liverpool assistant manager Pep Lijnders is hoping forward Mohamed Salah will be fit for Sunday's League Cup final against Chelsea, but said his participation remains in doubt. Both Mohamed Salah and fellow forward Darwin Núñez missed Wednesday's match against Luton Town after featuring for Liverpool at Brentford at the weekend. Liverpool are going into the final with several injuries to key players. League leaders Liverpool beat 10th place Chelsea 4-1 when they played on January 31st. And that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.